many definitions for AI. The one that I use is tools and algorithms that are inspired by human intelligence and or natural intelligence. And AI is usually used for decision making, either building models that we then use to make decisions ourselves as humans or augment our decision making. It can also be used to actually do the decision making itself and then run through that feedback loop of observing the consequences of the decision and making new decisions as well. So AI can also be used autonomously, and especially in areas where the frequency of decision making is pretty high. It's often better to allow the AI to make the decisions than to inject the human in the loop. So there are both types of application areas.
Babak, I'd love to hear more about how Sentient potentially helps a different type of customer than a BuzzFeed or someone that Alluvium would work with.
Sure. So Sentient is a product company. In that we only have 3 products. But I guess if the question is how do we approach going into a new product area, it's about identifying those points where decisions are being made and how those decisions can be automated. And often they can, and often they should. I mean, just to provide a little bit of a counterexample, in trading, for example, in self-driving cars, for example, we actually do want to automate where we can. And it's beneficial. Taking the human out of the loop in those areas often makes it repeatable. And we can log what's happening, so we can have a history of, for example, if there was a car crash, what happened leading up to it. Often the barrier becomes who do we punish if there was a mistake, rather than whether or not, in fact, taking the human out of the loop was beneficial as a whole. Going back to your initial question, I believe today AI is very similar to 30 years ago computing. For those of you who remember back then, personal computing becoming cheap and prevalent, everybody was looking at computerizing their enterprises. And they were going out and actually they had computer departments whose task was to, bring in this new technology and computerize. Today, it's laughable. Every single one of us are computer users. We carry, one around with us every day, and we're using it for computing purposes. So I think that's the trajectory that we are going to go down. Today, it's very difficult for an enterprise to go off and use the tools that are available out there and apply it, for example, to large data sets that they've collected and build an AI-enabled solution. It's because the technology is still not there, the tool set is not there, and the capability to build those solutions isn't quite there yet. But I think that is the trajectory we're going down, and the pervasiveness of this technology is certainly analogous to how computing and then the internet became pervasive.
Babak, can you share a little bit more about how AI can help us save or make money? I got to drive in the ROI on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. There is a lot of legacy when you go into these companies. Companies have put a lot of money into actually collecting data, which we thought they think that someday is going to be useful to them. One application of AI is just unleash this machine learning against this data set, and maybe it'll find things that we can't find in there already. And so I think that's the first inclination of many companies out there, but what they miss out is that feedback loop that Todd was talking about right now, which is, okay, if we find something, we need to put it out there and verify whether it works, and then get more feedback. And that more feedback that we're getting is much more relevant because it's out there against your users now versus users you've had over the last 15, 20, 30 years. So it's not just the ROI on the data that you've collected, but I believe that it provides efficiencies and improvements to your decision-making cycles going forward into the future. And so I believe that we should not restrict AI only to the model building aspect. One of the reasons why AI is enjoying this hype cycle right now is this breakthrough that we've had around deep learning, neural networks, rebranded as deep learning. Great rebranding. They're just neural networks with many, many more hidden layers. And the fact is that they do allow us in many applications to do exactly that and unleash it on the data set and have it cluster your data set and find patterns, often nonlinear, that might not come very easily. It is very expensive to do so. It takes, our best deep learning models today are as good as the number of processing nodes, GPUs, that we can throw at it in a single data center fully connected. So only the big guys can build those big models, and when you build them, you build one, and it's more or less static. So you need to make sure that you take those models, put them out there in the real world, and have that decision loop optimize those models as you go forward. Just very quickly, one example is we do this we call intelligent commerce. Effectively, we take the AI, this deep learning magic, and we apply it to the inventory of images of, say, shoes or sunglasses, whatever that you're selling. And it perceives those and extracts features out of them very similarly to humans. But that alone is not enough. You do then need to have this online learning aspect that sits on top of this clustering that you've built that allows the users to navigate and get to what they're looking for. So often when we go out and try to sell this to big retailers or brands and so forth, they really like it. They go, wow, this is really cool. Within 2 or 3 clicks, I'm getting to what I need to go. But can you use all this data that I've collected too from people that bought this, also bought this other thing and so forth? Yeah, we can use that data, but it's secondary. The immediate context of the user is much better a determinant of what they're looking for than all of that data from 10, 15 years ago that you've collected and modeled.